Hi friends, welcome to my channel. In the last video, we talked about the reigns of the first four kings of Rome. During the reign of Ancus Marcius, one of the representatives of the Etruscan oligarchy moved to Rome from the Etruscan city of Tarquinia with his family and entourage. In Rome, he took the name Lucius Tarquinius. He was noble, educated, rich and wasteful. So, he quickly gained the favor both of Ancus Marcius and the people. Ancus appointed the stranger guardian of his children, and when he died, the Senate and the people elected Tarquinius to the vacant throne. Why this happened, we don't know. He was the first, says Livy, who canvassed for the crown and delivered a sad speech to secure the support of the people. That he was the first is doubtful, but that he canvassed is certain. The Etruscan oligarchy probably saw him as their man, and, to satisfy their trade and expansionist needs, decided to elevate him to the throne. Behind Tarquinius were those who today are commonly referred to as big business. People who could spend as much money as they wanted on propaganda to get a government that would protect their interests and pursue their expansionist policy. And they succeeded. Lucius Tarquinius was elected king of Rome and went down in history as Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, which means the elder. He reigned for 38 years, from 616 to 579 BC. He was already a very real king. He wanted a palace and had it built in the Etruscan style, much more refined than the Roman. In addition, he had a throne placed in the palace, and on it he sat in great pomp with a scepter in his hand. Tarquinius fought successfully against the Sabines and subjugated all Latium. Later, Roman historians wrote that his reign was corrupt. He used trophies from the defeated cities to decorate not Rome, but the Etruscan cities, particularly Tarquinia, where he was burned. However, he did a lot for Rome as well. He brought Etruscan and Greek artists to his capital and beautified it with majestic temples. He built a sewage system called Cloaca Maxima, which drained the swamps and rid the city of sewage. Finally, the city began to be a real city, with well laid out streets, delimited neighborhoods, stone houses, and a forum, that is, a central square, where all the citizens came together. Under Tarquinius Priscus, the monarchy increased its power over the aristocracy, and the Etruscans' influence grew in Roman politics. Apparently, he represented the growing power of business and finance against the landed aristocracy. For this reason, he had to face the Senate's hostility, because it was the keeper of ancient traditions and wanted to control the king. Back in the day, the Senate would have overthrown him or forced him to resign. But that wasn't possible anymore. All the levers of government were in the hands of the king, and the Senate didn't have much power. It was easier to kill him, and they did it, but it didn't work out. Tarquin's widow, Tanakil, took charge of the situation and was able to transmit the throne to her son-in-law, Sorus Tullius, who became the first king of Rome to gain power by inheritance without any election. Sorus Tullius ruled Rome from 578 to 534 BC. His reign was marked by a number of important events. Rome and the cities of Latium became the members of one great league. Sorus added the Quirinal, Viminal, and Esquiline hills to the city and built a wall around them. This wall was the legal city limit until the time of the emperors. Large-scale construction required many workers who were not available in Rome, and Sorus began inviting foreign workers to Rome in large numbers, providing jobs for masons, technicians, and craftsmen. Today, we call these people guest workers. In Rome, they were called plebeians. The plebs were a new element in Roman history. They were not prominent under the first four kings. At that time, all the Romans were citizens. All were large or small landowners. So formally, they all had equal rights. It was a democracy, where all citizens could discuss important matters, and where reputation and authority were important in office allocation. But after the death of Ancus Martius, the situation changed completely. Large projects favored the Etruscans, from whom came carpenters, blacksmiths, gunsmiths, and merchants. High wages attracted many peasants to the city, and the soldiers, when the war was over, were reluctant to return to their villages, preferring to stay in Rome, where they could more easily find women and wine. And it was these outsiders who made up the plebs. Servius Tullius and his Etruscan friends saw how much benefit could be derived from this mass of non-citizens if they could convince them that only the king could assert their rights. For this reason, he enacted a grand constitutional reform. The old division of the Roman people into 30 curiae was established for a city of 30 to 40,000 inhabitants, all of whom enjoyed the same rights and possessed about the same property. But now the city had grown enormously. The census reported some 80,000 persons capable of bearing arms. If we count one woman and one child for each soldier, and one slave for every fourth family, we can estimate that about 260,000 people lived in Rome and its surrounding areas around 560 BC. Of this massive population, only the members of 30 curiae, called patricians, had political rights and could vote. The others were still excluded, among them even the biggest industrialists, merchants, and bankers, those who provided the money to the state for wars and big projects. They were now entitled to a reward. As a first step, Soros granted citizenship to the children of freed slaves. It was many thousands of people who became his most ardent supporters. Thereupon, he abolished the old 30 curiae and divided the people into 35 new tribes, arranging them according to place of residence rather than kinship or rank. But most importantly, he divided the people into 5 classes based on property. To the first class belonged those who owned at least 100,000 aces, and to the last those who owned less than 11,000. If in the curiae everyone was equal, each vote was equal to any other, but the classes voted by centurias, and they didn't have an equal number. The first class had 98 centurias, the second, third, and fourth 20 each, the fifth 30, and the sixth class 1. Thus, only first-class votes were sufficient to obtain a majority on any ballot. The others, even if they formed a coalition, couldn't oppose him. It was a full-blown oligarchic regime that gave the monopoly of lawmaking to big business and took it away from the patricians, who didn't have much money. But what could the Senate do in this situation? Sorus didn't even have to worry about the election, because he'd already inherited the crown and had the money of rich on his side, plus the support of the common people, who were employed and paid wages and given citizenship. He surrounded himself with an armed guard to protect his own life from evildoers, put on a golden diadem, had an ivory throne made, and sat on it majestically with a scepter in his hand. It didn't matter if you were a senator or a beggar. Anyone who wanted to approach him had to announce themselves and wait their turn. It was very hard to get rid of such a ruler, but trouble crept up on him from a place he never expected. He was killed in a plot organized by his daughter. She was married to the son of Tarquinius Priscus, and she and her husband hatched a plot to kill her elderly father so he could take the throne himself. The plan worked, and the second Tarquinius took the Roman throne. He ruled Rome from 534 to 510 BC. The new king was even more of a tyrant than the one he sent to the other world. The Romans called him Superbus, which means proud. Under Tarquinius Superbus, the monarchy became absolute and Etruscan influence supreme. The patricians had thought of the king as the executive of the Senate and chief priest of the national religion. They couldn't long consent to unlimited royal power. Therefore, they had killed Tarquinius Priscus and had raised no hand to protect Sorus. But this new Tarquin was worse than the first. He surrounded himself with a bodyguard, degraded freemen with months of forced labor, had citizens crucified in the Forum, put to death many leaders of the upper classes, and ruled with an insolent brutality that won him the hatred of all influential men. Thinking to gain popularity by successful wars, he attacked the Rutuli and the Volscians. But this war didn't help him stay in power. In 509 BC, what we call the Great Roman Revolution happened. The Senate and the people of Rome overthrew the king, banished him from Rome, and proclaimed the establishment of the Republic. This was one of the great turning points of Roman history. I'll talk more about these events in the next video. Subscribe to the channel so as not to miss it. At this point, I wish to conclude this video. If it was interesting, leave comments, put likes and repost. Thank you for your attention. See you later. Goodbye.